And as we know, yesterday, thousands, I mean, the crowd was massive, joined the family of George Floyd in a peaceful march right in our own city.
Yeah, tens of thousands. I think the number was 60,000 people went out, and many more joined to watch the coverage on television. Houston's own Rapper Bun B was one of the event's organizers and had a very powerful message to share with the crowd.
Houston is unified. Houston stands together in solidarity against racism, against police brutality, against racial injustice. We stand for everything that means something under God's word. We're all children of God, and that's why we stand here today to do honor to a fellow brother of ours, George Floyd, who was tortured and murdered in the streets of Minneapolis, Minnesota. We will never forget his name. We will never forget his memory. And due to that, we will make sure that we carry this fight on as long as we need to and as far as we have to.
And of course, Bun B is a very busy man, but he has made time to join us today. There he is right there on your screen. It is great to see you, sir. On the heels of yesterday's protests, let us know your thoughts. How are you feeling today? And do you think this message is finally, after decades and centuries of social injustice, is this message starting to sink in?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I woke up today very proud to be a Houstonian. I'm so proud of my city and the way we stood together yesterday, the unified message that we sent to the world from the Houston community. And yeah, I do think you can look at the diversity of the crowd that gathered yesterday, and I do think that the message is starting to resonate more and more with people. I think we have a long way to go, but we're starting from the right place. We're sending the right message. We're sending it as a unified and united message. And that's pretty much all we can ask for at this time. It's going to take everyone to scream about this injustice in this country, not just Black people. It's going to take people of every color, from every walk of life, to stand together and tell the rest of the world that we won't have it, that we're not going to have it. So I was proud to partner with my brother Trae the Truth and, help us, have us put together this march and this rally yesterday. And I think it speaks volumes about how we're willing to stand together against injustice and racism in this country.
And you are so right, Bun B. And I have to tell you, I was watching this at home with my kids. We were sitting on the couch. We were all having this conversation. And I have to tell you, one thing that really stuck, not only in my mind, my eyes, my heart, was when it all started, when you stepped up to the microphone and other people stepped up to the microphone, the silence and the attention that was given to you and the other speakers, that's what I noticed, is that people were there to listen.
Yeah, and we're excited about the fact that young people in our city are, wanting to engage with us, right? They want to be informed, they want to be educated, and they want to act. And so we want to make sure that we give them the right information and that we're completely honest and open with them about what it is that we stand for and what we're fighting for. And it's a pivotal moment in our country right now. People realize that they're in a moment that will resonate through history for generations to come. And so they want to make sure that they're standing on the right side of history. And, when we speak in this city, we've been afforded a level of interaction with our city, with our elected officials, with our mayor. People trust us, right? There's a level of trust that we've been given from the people of Houston. And so we're working very hard not to betray that trust. And so they give us time to speak. They allow us to be heard. And, and they stand with us. And we're very proud to have that position of I don't want to say authority, but we're proud to have words and character that resonate with the people of Houston.
Bun B, I think that for a lot of people who may be struggling to really understand just the degree of social injustice that so many people in our community have been facing for generations, in that effort, sometimes people have trouble starting this conversation. Maybe they post things on social media that are a little awkward or unintentionally offensive. What are things that each one of us can do right now to help propel this conversation and this movement forward?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is educate ourselves about these things. Let's not come to the table with any preconceived notions about what exactly is happening in our country. If you know that you're coming from a position of privilege and you're not really sure exactly how to address these things, you should call someone that you think would know. You know, it's a tough conversation and it's uncomfortable, but it has to happen, right? If I can guarantee you that it's a lot more uncomfortable to be a victim of injustice in this country than it is to have a conversation about injustice in this country. So I think that we all need to step from behind our privileges. I mean, I'm a recording artist. I'm a person of influence. So there's a certain level of privilege that's afforded to me in this country. But I'm willing to step from behind it to stand with the people and voice concerns about what happened to people of color in this community and in this country. And I think that anyone else that's been given a level of privilege should be willing to step from behind it as well.
Those are great points. And I know your compassion, your activism is only just beginning, and you'll be with the Floyd family next week, I would imagine, as well. Is that right?
Yes. You know, along with my brother Trae the Truth, who's really been the point of contact with the Floyd family. I didn't know George Floyd personally, but I did feel compelled to stand up against racism, up against police brutality and injustice. And so with my brother Trae the Truth, I've been able to actually stand with the family. And so, yes, we do plan on being there to stand with them, obviously at one of the lowest moments of their life, which will be the funeral of George Floyd. And we just want to be there in solidarity. I'm not there to, you know, I'm in a position where I can use my platform to allow them to be heard and to be seen and to be felt, and for people to give them love and compassion and just our collective humanity for their concerns right now. And so that's really what the march and the rally was about yesterday. It's about the fact that we know that we can be given a platform to speak our minds about it, but we wanted to make sure that the family was heard and that people could see their pain and hear their grief and let the world know how they feel and how we should be acting in this moment and the level of accountability that they feel should be afforded in the wake of their brother's death.
And sir, I know you're very, very busy. You got to go, but any final thoughts to share with our viewers before you go?
I'm very happy that we were able to control the narrative of what happened yesterday, because nowadays there would probably be a lot of people who would like to tell us what Houston is and how Houston is. And I'm glad that we were able to show them how Houston was. And, you know, numbers don't lie.
100%. Bun B, we know that you're busy. We appreciate your time and continued support for the Floyd family, and also shining Houston in a bright spotlight in this tumultuous time across our country. We appreciate you joining us today.
No problem. And I want to thank you guys, because you've always made your platform available to me. And, you know, I don't take that lightly. So I want to make sure that anytime I call on you guys for your platform, that it's for the greater good of the people of Houston. So thank you for being accessible and letting me do this.
Well, you are welcome anytime, Bun B.
Our door is always open.